My name is Steve Smith, aka Z-Axis. You're listening to TQA Weekly, and I'll help you structure content using HTML in a web page. I'll be talking about and introducing 3 new sets of commands you can use in HTML in order to create your very first web page. This is not episode for the pros, so if you're a pro, you don't need to watch this. But if you're one that hasn't learned how to create your own web page, and I surely hope one day you will at the end of these episodes, this is something you should start learning now. How to create your own web page. Everybody should know how to actually program something. That way you can actually learn how these things work. This is not a watch. This is not electronics. This is programming. HTML 101. Now, of course, things to explain before I get on to the actual commands. I do know, and I'm pretty sure one pro will say it, just like me, there are tags we can use in HTML that we can affect using CSS to create just about everything you can do with the H1 and H6 tags and all the other information that we have. The issue is search engines. If you're creating your own personal blog and you don't care who's visiting it, it won't matter at any point during that whole discussion which tag you use once you learn how to use CSS. But if you're like me and you want to rank and you want people visiting, you need to use the right commands. So how about we just think about it this way. I'm going to explain what the tags are and why they're important. Commands use a less than symbol to open and a greater than symbol to close the tag itself. And in order to close a tag, you go less than slash the name of the command and then greater than, and it's closed. Now, I've said it at the beginning, it applies to every single tag. Every time I say open or close, you'll know what I mean. So how does a search engine, because I'm always going to compare this to a search engine because this is basically what's important. How does a search engine, or any other person for that matter, figure out what content is more important than other? How do you identify the title of the page or the content and even the subtitles? That's easy. We have something called the H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6 commands. H1 being the most important header, H6 being the least important header. This is useful because it actually tells people which title is parent or child to which item, because it gives a visual reference on a page when you're using just standard HTML with no modification whatsoever. And these tags search engines love because it actually explains what part of your page is important. Otherwise, how the hell is it going to figure out what you're actually trying to get people to look at? They don't want to look at the advertising because they're probably the one pushing it, if there's advertising at all. And they certainly don't want to grab a bunch of gibberish text. So if your store or website is on shoes, you should put the H1 title on the beginning content of shoes, if that was your actual topic. After the H1, the first one, to open it, you put the title inside and you close H1. You want to put a subtitle, you use H2. You don't modify the look of H1 and add another H1, use the H2 tag. You open H2, put in the subtitle, and then you close the H2 tag in order to distinguish the subtitle from the next part of content, which is the paragraph, or whatever you want, but let's just say for all intents and purposes, the paragraph of content below the subtitle, which would be a description of anything, depends on what you want to put as content. So you open up the paragraph tag, and then you write in all the content, and then you close the paragraph. All this information, of course, is in the show notes, tqaweekly.com/SE2EP21. So if you want to see all these tags, open and close, and all the variations, or you didn't catch something, everything is on that page. It brings you to the correct page. You even have a source and website resources demonstration of headers, paragraphs, list demo, which you can actually view. To view the source code of that, you right click it. Of course, the source code's already in the show notes. Now, once we set up the paragraph, let's say for some crazy reason you have a cake recipe. Now, when you're making a recipe of anything, you will need a list of items. Now, cakes are fairly simple. You don't need to go and buy all the items one after the other. You can buy them in any order, which means you can use an unordered list or bullet points. So, you use the unordered list, which is UL. Then you add all the items. If you need 16 items, you would make 16 list items. So in order to make a list item in any of these ordered or unordered lists, you open with LI, add the list item that you want to put in, and close with LI, and you do the same thing all the way down. Now, that's the unordered list. Of course, it doesn't matter in which order we do it, it's just the list of items we need to get from the grocery store or from the house that we should use inside the cake recipe, because we're just going to use that for as an example. Now, we can all agree that you can't start cooking before preparing a cake. So at this point, if you're trying to set up a guideline on how to create the cake, you may want to use an ordered list, which is OL. An ordered list will give you at least basically numbers. You can change these with different configurations later, and I will get to that in a different episode. But in order to identify that you want these items to be done one after another, you start with OL, then you use the list item, of course, open OL, open the list item LI, add the item within, and then close LI, and do that for the number of steps that you need for that recipe or ordered list that you're trying to create. And at the end of the list, once you're done, you close OL or ordered lists. That is unordered first and ordered after, explained. Lists are great for everything, especially menus, by the way. How about we go and see the source code and the end result of the project we just named. This is just a demo file that you can, of course, get from tqaweekly.com/se2ep21. So obviously, this is the source code of interest. If you're listening to the audio version, the source code is still available in the show notes. No worries there. So obviously, underneath the body tag is where we get the H1. I wrote ways to create a web page. Then I put a subtitle, things you need to make a web page. Then I created a paragraph, opening the P and then closing the P with some sample text. I made an ordered list, starts with OL, and each of the items starts with LI and closes LI. And then at the end of this, I closed the OL tag. Then I did the same thing again. Another secondary or H2 header. Another paragraph, which is open P, then close P. And then unordered list, UL, and as we did with the ordered list, LI for the item name, and then close LI. And once you're done, close UL. The code I just showed you renders this as the sample file of the web page. Of course, if you play around with this, you can and start making your own content, you can actually get a relatively amount of decent content into this. So things like your own personal blog, recipes, ways of building things, doesn't matter what topic you want, you can create a page of anything that you want. Now that I've actually shown you up to date 14 different commands or tags for HTML, you can rest assured that you're on your way to making your own websites. So 2 weeks from now, I'll explain 2 other items. One, the anchor tag. This is the tag that allows us to link between pages and websites and even download other things. And the image tag, which will allow us to add pictures to our page to allow us to do specific things. And of course, I'll give you certain information on how to position the image and things you can do to the links that you can actually get it to pop other windows or tabs. Now, next week though, I'm going to help you improve your internet experience by speeding up the browser and explaining what you can do with different types of add-ons, what the pros and cons are of add-ons in general, and why you may want to run with different things running or not running at all. Yes, I'm being vague, but it gives you a reason to come back next week. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to TQA Weekly for more information on this episode and others. Please head over to tqaweekly.com where you can get show notes, information for our Android application, our web app, even TQA Weekly branded gear and apparel. Search for the solutions to your technology issues and problems, and even join the newsletter. Everything on that website, and if there's something you can't find, ask at tqaweekly.com. Stay safe and online. Have a great day. Thank you for listening.